Dudes to Dads is a podcast to help men understand and navigate the transition of being a single dude into a family man. How do we make sense of it all? Well, we probably won't be able to, but let's go ahead and have some fun trying. And we are back.
We are back.
I'm Jason Kreidman.
I'm Alan Bush.
And this is Dudes to Dads. Alan.
Yes.
Happy Tuesday? What is this?
It is Tuesday.
It is Tuesday.
Yeah.
I don't even know what day it is anymore.
It's very meta because we launch them on Tuesday and we're actually recording on Tuesday.
That's pretty
great.
crazy how that actually works.
It actually worked this way.
Interesting episode today. Episode 128.
Yeah.
7 ways to motivate your kids without bribing them.
Without bribing them.
Yeah, that was the caveat. We had that was the catch.
Money is a good motivator, right?
Well, everybody will say, "Hey, well, whatever the bribe
Or
is,
might not be money.
It can be candy and food and
movies,
time
whatever it is,
and all kinds of stuff." Yeah. But I'm here to say, and I mean, this is probably a theme throughout all of it, is that bribing isn't necessarily the answer.
Sure.
So, I think we can all agree, though, is that rewards do motivate people. I mean,
yes.
Hey, you're going to get this if you do this. And I mean, we often use that kind of motivation.
For sure.
The problem is that that's a really short-term success, if you will, or I should say the success will last short-term. If the reward stops, then typically the behavior stops.
Right.
I mean, that's what happens.
It's like they constantly expect that reward.
Yeah, like if you, as an example, you get paid to work.
Right.
But if all of a sudden they stopped paying you, would you still go in?
Exactly.
Right. So, I mean, maybe that's an extreme example.
Week,
Well,
then I'd be like, to make sure my clients understand that I'm leaving.
But if you ask somebody, let's say, or let's say you're a musician or you make music.
Yeah.
Regardless if someone was paying you or not, you're motivated to make that music. It's something inside, it's intrinsic that you enjoy doing it.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the goal with some things, that we want for our children is to obviously have the intrinsic motivation, let's say.
Yeah.
And the problem is that we see rewards and bribes everywhere. I mean, school, at home, everything. Mm-hmm. And so I think if you look at anybody who's been at the top of their game, and we could say let's say an athlete, a musician, even a business person, nobody who's at that level of success isn't motivated from within.
Exactly.
Meaning it's not like their parents stood over them and said, well, you're going to be the best, football player.
Yeah.
That could have worked for a short amount of time, but to get to any real level of professional, et cetera, they're going to have that internal motivation. Now, sometimes there's a combination, both internal and parenting. I was
going to say there's probably some. Of course, a lot of these people.
That happens with parents that are very, very pushy and kind of right there with their kids at all times. Stage parents or whatever. But I would say that when you get to that level, they're going to get burned out. They're going to get burned out before they get to that level if somebody else was the one who's creating that motivation.
Right.
So how do we motivate our children without bribing them?
Right.
I think it's really important that we establish too, before we've got 7 ways to do this, is you first have to have a strong relationship with them.
Yeah.
One, because then what you're doing is going to affect them and they're going to maybe be more inclined to be receptive to things when you have a good relationship. So let's kind of, just walk through them. The first one, and some of these might seem very obvious, but we'll go ahead and
sure.
I mean, a lot of the stuff that we talk about is obvious, but yet we don't do it.
Well, exactly. And sometimes it's not obvious to everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
First one is to talk to them. And so talking to them means talking about the importance of the activity. Mm-hmm. So I'll give you an example. It's important to have your room clean so that you can find things when you need it, or so that nobody gets hurt while walking through your room. To pick up stuff off the floor. For that case.
Yeah.
And it's important to try to avoid words like have to, must, or should, and instead, explaining to them the importance. well, I don't believe necessarily that homework is important, but for kids of thinking, okay, maybe they're gonna have to practice something.
Yes.
So what is the reason for the practice? Well, if they don't care to be good at something,
right,
then they don't need to practice because they don't need to do it.
Yeah.
But if they're in a sport or they are a musician or something and they want to attain or not even attain, but get better at it,
yeah,
you'd have that conversation about it takes practice.
Sure.
Yeah. It's not, well, you signed up for it, so you have to do it.
Right.
I don't think that's necessarily the motivating. That's not going to motivate someone to do it.
Yeah.
It'll just feel like they're
obligated.
They're obligated.
Yeah.
And that's not a good feeling.
No, I hate that feeling.
Right.
I don't like feeling obligated to do a lot of things. And I know when I was a kid, I was more intrinsically motivated to do things when someone just encouraged it.
Right.
Rather than saying I had to do certain things.
Yeah. And some of these are more geared towards very young children.
Yeah.
As a lot of the people listening to Dudes to Dads are going to have younger children. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I recall as a child too, for certain things, obviously, just very intrinsically motivated. I was very motivated to get better at sports. My parents weren't necessarily pushing me. They were supportive, but it wasn't like you had to do this. It was something like, no, I wanted to be better. And so I'm not sure of the things that are instilled in us for that,
right?
Because obviously it's the environment and it's the parenting that maybe. It's the self-esteem. There's all kinds of stuff that comes with it. So it's kind of interesting. But as we go through these other ones, maybe that'll shed some light on why we do feel that intrinsic motivation.
Yeah.
And of course, there's going to be things that you aren't motivated to do. Right. Most people aren't motivated to clean their room.
Right.
But those and the idea that you have to is not necessarily, like you said, it's not going to motivate them. So it's why do we do this? Mm-hmm. Why do we do it? Without jokingly saying it's because your mom and dad are neat freaks, and we need to we feel better when your room is clean, or we're embarrassed that the neighbors come over. There's a ton of reasons why we could go into that, but that's a whole other thing. The second one, positive reinforcement. So when they do something that, let's say, falls under that category of motivation or being motivated, make a big deal about it, and you want to make sure it's unsolicited. So something like, wow, son, I really appreciate you taking out the trash this morning.
Yeah.
He didn't come to you and say, hey, look, Dad, I took out the trash. What do you think? Or, hey, I saw you put away your dishes after dinner. That was really helpful.
Yeah.
Just something simple like that, but make a big deal out of it. And so they're obviously going to want to repeat that behavior as they get positive reinforcement.
Sure.
They're not getting a reward. Keep in mind,
yes.
They're getting positive reinforcement.
Yeah, which
big difference.
Yes, yeah, a tangible.
Oh, you
reward.
took your plate to the dishwasher. Yeah. Now you get dessert.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. That's not how it works.
Yeah, dangle that carrot.
Totally. Yeah, no carrots dangled. That's my new band.
Right. No carrots dangled by Jason Cred.
Number 3, offer choices. So kids like being in control. And when they're young, they love to test that control, of course. Mm-hmm. So offer them choices to help motivate them in the right direction. So as an example, would you rather take a bath or a shower tonight? That's, it's their option. And then when they say neither, then you got to give them a stink pass.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right.
But no, would you rather take a bath or a shower? It's like, that's the options, Or would you like to do your 15 minutes of homework reading with me tonight or by yourself? Mm-hmm. You give them that option. So it's not an option whether you're reading or not.
Right. You're going to do that.
Right.
But it's how you do it.
It's how you do it. And you have the choice. Mm. And so maybe that helps to motivate them.
Heads I win, tails you lose.
Right. They get to choose it. And so hopefully that gives them the sense of control, still needing them to do the activity.
Right.
Hey, if they have a choice of like, they can go to practice, you say, would you rather go to practice on Monday or Wednesday? And and you say, you're making the agreement, and if they didn't go on Monday, they need to go on Wednesday or whatever.
Right.
So number 4, set goals. I think it's important, even, as kids need to make goals, but make sure that they're realistic. And it can be in individual accomplishments. You want to make sure that the child is setting their own goals too. Right. So it's not like you're sitting them down and saying, okay, here's the goal for this, or, you better get this, or you better receive that. It's really for them, and it's much more powerful if they're the ones creating it and learning that process of setting a goal.
Right.
Hey, remember you set that goal to, be able to kick the ball all the way across the street, by next month or, whatever. I don't know, random. But something like that where you let them establish the goal or you can help them along. And then you could potentially remind them of that goal. Said, hey, are you going to get to your goal by doing this? Right. And then they might say, well, I don't care about getting to my goal. And then you've got to reevaluate the whole process.
Right.
Aren't kids fun?
Pickle beans.
Notice I'm always having a rebuttal for what I'm spouting.
Yeah.
I wonder where that comes from.
Were you a rebuttal person?
No, I don't think so. I was pretty compliant. I was a rule follower.
Gotcha.
I did what I was told.
Well, and then I guess kind of the overarching theme of the thing is that because I was the same way in terms of like my childhood.
But I was given freedom too.
Me too.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I was given freedom to do certain things. I was also given a certain amount of encouragement, but I was never told, like forced to do a lot of stuff. And so when I did something right, I wanted to make my grandparents or my mom or dad or whoever happy. That was just my intrinsic reward for doing it.
Well, see, that's a whole other podcast, but about, kids doing things to please is interesting because there's many children obviously who don't do that.
Sure.
And then that can become a problem. But I think there is some psychology obviously around that where, kids are wanting to please, but at the same time, as a parent, you've got to show that unconditional love where it doesn't matter whether they do it right or wrong or yes or no. It's like you're still loving them.
Yeah.
So there's a fine line with that stuff because, you don't want them to be seeking your approval
like every single step of the way. Right. That makes sense too. Cause I wasn't like that either. I mean, I guess maybe I was a little.
Yeah. I think everybody wants that approval at some level.
Because I don't think you live in a vacuum where there's no reward at all. It's like there is the intrinsic reward. There is an intrinsic reward doing certain things. So you want to be motivated to help yourself. But at first it's more about, I'm getting encouragement. And then it's about, I need to get that goal. Like, because then you develop that. That's how you developed. It's like, at first it was more like probably, like you said, a lot of freedom was given. And then again, I'm just like,
no, I for sure wanted to please my parents. Yes. I mean, they were positive people and you're like, and then eventually you end up having to make those decisions for yourself.
Right. Because
I don't know where that transition is.
Exactly. How do you figure that out? That's the hard part.
That's part of this. I mean, it's part of, as a parent and as a dad, it's trying to help them make that transition, and I mean, as little things as like on the playground where we've said, hey, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you for doing that. But like, that's not the way to build them up.
Right.
It's, hey, you did this,
right? You
did that. And so that's the constant buildup. And maybe that's the transition. It's where, every little thing that they accomplish is because they did it, has nothing to do with, I'm so proud of you, or, you're a better kid now because you did it. I mean, it's you did it. Like, you put the effort. You're the one who got, you're the one who walked across there by yourself. Yeah. You're the one who did, like, it's that's the self-esteem building.
Sure.
So I think we got to be careful, with how much a kid is going to do it for you,
right?
And that motivation.
And then, where do you cross?
Because you ultimately do not want them doing it for
eventually.
You. Yeah,
but I do feel like it's initially that way. I could be wrong. But
I think that might be even
at first. It's like, oh, good job. When you have little kids and they're like, oh, okay,
right. But that's what I'm saying is that good job.
Yeah,
is praise that's not ideal.
No, I get it, but I'm saying like with like an infant, for example.
Yeah.
A little baby. Oh, great.
Sure.
Oh, thank you for bringing that to me. And then they get light up and they're happy. They're all happy when they see you light up.
But that's what I'm saying. Is once they start making the transition of toddler and child, and they start like understanding the concepts, that's where it immediately becomes really important to make it they accomplished it.
Right.
It wasn't me. It wasn't like it's not horrible to say you're proud of your kid every once in a while,
right.
But that's not, that's, I said, the easiest example is just when you see it on the playground all the time. Yeah. Like, you're such a big boy. Yeah. You're so amazing. Like all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's like, all right.
Like, no, you did it. Like you walked across there. You must be proud of yourself.
Yeah.
That's the kind of talk that you want to have. So,
right.
And it's interesting because you very rarely hear it.
Right.
But it's really important.
For sure.
Yeah. Where were we? We set goals. Number 5, understand their capabilities. So I think this one is interesting because if they're having difficulty with something, we can't always assume that it's a motivation issue.
Right.
So in other words, I mean, they might just not have the skills to do it, or if they're younger, they haven't developed the skills to do it. An example could be like homework. Maybe they have homework and they're finding it difficult to do math or something like that, but they might just not understand it.
Right.
And so they're avoiding it.
Yes.
And that could be with sports. It could be like maybe, they find that when they're not enjoying what they're doing, they don't want to go to practice.
Right.
They're not very motivated because they're not very good at it.
Yeah.
And so as a parent, we look at it and go, well, that's because you have to practice, but, and it's a whole cycle.
Yeah.
But it's also,
they may not be as coordinated.
Yeah, they may not be as coordinated. So you have to understand that can be their capabilities. I mean, it's just, maybe they're just not that good at it,
Maybe you just suck.
But that's where it's important to, double down, triple down on the things that they are good at.
Yeah.
And you're finding out that, maybe my child isn't the best at soccer.
Yeah, and I guess there is, like you said, where do you cross that line? Because I always wonder, like, I wasn't super athletic. Let me take that back.
I was athletic.
I was a fit kid.
Right.
But I wasn't really like that coordinated on certain things. So I didn't play a lot of sports. Plus I was really shy. So I didn't really want to like not succeed. But then I got a little older and I realized how coordinated I could be. And maybe if I had that, somebody to help hone those skills, I could have done those things. But that being said, where do you, like you said, draw the line? At some point you're going to be like, look, you're just not good at this, Right. So there's probably, you got to try a few times.
And just because you're bad at something doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. But in a sense, like, is it worth the time?
Is it worth the time? And do they get enjoyment out of it? If they're like, all right, I'm not that coordinated right now, but I kind of want to keep doing this. Like,
it's the same thing as an adult. Like, how much do we spend on things that we're not very good at,
right,
versus just really going after and focusing on the things that we're good at?
Correct. Yeah.
And I mean, this is the whole world of self-help.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of criticism of that because the world of self-help and motivation and everything is us fixing things that we're not very good at.
Yeah.
Versus just like saying, screw it. Like, I don't need to know that.
Yeah.
I'm going to really learn how to do this well. And that's going to be better for me.
Yeah.
So there's that element of it too. Like, as a child, like, maybe they're just not that good.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
I remember I did martial arts for a bit, and there was a certain type of kick I couldn't do very well. And it was a simple one, but my toes don't go up as much as other people's do. Like, I don't have I'm flat footed. There's a bunch of other things. So I just couldn't do that kick very well. And eventually I just told he wanted me to keep doing it. And then eventually I was like, look, my toes don't move that way anymore. I'm just telling you, I can't kick that way. So find another kick for me.
Right.
And I mean, I didn't say it like that, but then he did. He's like, all right, we'll try this thing. And I was like, okay, great. I'm way better at this side kick thing or whatever it was. And I just didn't focus on that.
Yeah. And I think as people too, and not only just as parents, but in general, like, we have many people do have such an eagerness to get over the hurdle of not being able to do something.
Right.
And we try so hard because we've been taught that, like, giving up isn't a good thing.
Yeah.
But if you look at it in a little bit different way, it's like, okay, you try it a couple times, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I mean, same thing in business.
Yeah.
It's like, you're going down the same road, and it's just not working. It's like, you've got to do something different,
That being said, I get obsessed about something that I know is possible, but everyone gives up on it. So there was this thing when I was at a wedding, and this is basically an orb full of water with a golf ball. You're trying to get on the tee.
Yeah.
And I got it. I made it happen. And you give you a free drink, but I'm like, everyone was trying to, I can't get it. And I'm like,
6 hours later.
I'm pretty sure. Well, no, thankfully it wasn't that long, but I probably would have been there. If I had 6 hours of time to do,
that is something I would have done for 6 hours.
And I was sitting there trying to figure out how to do it. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you could do this. Finally got it. Yeah. And they were like, dude, you got that? Like, everyone, there was like five, maybe like, I would say, I might be exaggerating, but like 5 or 6 people that tried it and couldn't do it.
Right.
And then I sat there for like a good 15, 20 minutes trying to get that thing. And then I finally got it done. I'm like, yes, it's possible.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. That's, I mean, I can see that's, our stick-to-itiveness is the, and that can be stubborn, a great trait. Yeah, stubborn. It can be a great trait. It can be bad.
Right. Yeah.
Number 6, let's move on. Make it a competition.
Oh, okay.
So I think healthy competition is good. I think you want to make sure that that the child understands not to be negative toward the other person.
Yeah.
So you can call it being a poor sport or, or being a good sportsmanship or whatever in any aspect. I mean, just competition. So it's like, a competition to, get upstairs and take a bath. Like, how fast can you do it?
Right.
Or, I mean, I remember when I was younger, my family used to, time me taking out the trash. Mm-hmm. Little did I realize they were just making me take out the trash. But I was like, I would time how I would go to all the different rooms, throw the trash in the bag, bring it out to the curb. And like, they would come back with a stop, there was a stopwatch and I was like breaking my record. And it was this whole thing. It was like, who can do it the fastest? And it's like, my parents were geniuses.
Yes.
As I'm running through the house,
taking out the
trash as fast as we can. But it was a competition, like who could do it the fastest.
Yeah.
And of course, my sisters would let me win.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, oh, you know what? You're the fastest. You got to do that again.
You're way better at it than me.
Yeah, they were geniuses. And then the last one, model the behavior. So monkey see, monkey do.
Sure.
If you're expecting that your kids you're wanting them to clean up, guess what?
You got to clean up.
You probably have to clean up as well.
Yeah.
If you're wanting them to eat better, healthier choices, not have this, not have that, you can't do that as well.
Yeah.
Say, oh, by the way, don't do what I'm doing.
Yeah. Don't have this, French fries from McDonald's like I'm having, but you better eat that.
Right. Yeah. You have to eat healthy.
Eat the healthy stuff.
I think, those are the 7 tips, but overall it's really about feeling good inside. It's this intrinsic value and what do we get out of it that feels good? And that's the important part of teaching the child. It's what is the positive impact that it could have for you, that whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And guess what? Some things might not be that worth, or might not be worth doing.
Sure. Yeah.
You're going to find that out.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we understand their perspective and kind of and respect where they're coming from. Mm-hmm. So, maybe your child doesn't want to play sports. They'd rather play, be a musician.
Yeah.
Or, your daughter prefers reading over doing math. There's a whole bunch of different things that happen along the way.
And I can imagine that you would want your kids to be good at everything they put their mind to. And so I imagine that you would say, okay, well, let's try these things and see what works out for you. Your kids have a pretty good diverse set of things that they are interested in.
Sure.
Martial arts, and then
they certainly have found things that they weren't.
Exactly.
They've tried something and then they may have not been that motivated because they either didn't come to them easily or
some kids are artistic and they know how to draw really well right away, and then other kids are like they can't. They just don't know how.
Right.
So it's okay. You don't have to. All right, don't draw. Right. Do something else.
Yeah. So I think the final tip maybe as a parent is just to be mindful of what's important to them and what motivates them internally. So it's not about you as a dad.
Yeah.
It's, it's what motivates them. How do you allow them to find themselves and find what their passion is and what they're good at? And you'll find that, when you're motivated, it means or if you're passionate or you're interested in something, you're typically a lot more motivated.
Yeah, for sure.
So, if people have any feedback, Alan, what should they do?
They should email us, podcast@dudesToDads.com, or maybe get us at Twitter @DudesToDads, or Facebook, DudesToDads.com, or maybe just look at some videos on YouTube, which are more related to Dad University now. Mm-hmm. And you can subscribe there. Jason has a lot
We have the audio on Dad University. Though.
Oh, okay, great. Well, then even better. And Jason has some great tips up there for the dads up there that are separate from the podcast. So make sure you check that out, YouTube. And then please go to iTunes and Stitcher. Go to both of them if you can, but at least one of them, and leave some reviews. You can find us at Dudes to Dads and all of those. Leave some positive reviews or negative if you want, but just leave something.
No, don't leave negative reviews.
It's not going to be negative.
I'm not going to read it.
Right. But actually, it really helps perpetuate the show.
I will read it.
Oh, yeah. We'll read it and brood over it for a week.
Feedback is good.
Any kind of feedback. Constructive feedback, regardless.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay. With that, Alan, thank you.
Thank you.
And we will see you next week.
See you next week.